Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Christmas Month on the Soapy Bubbles Reviews channel. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing a film that, in my opinion, should never have been made. In case you didn't already read the title or see the thumbnail of this video, that film is Home Alone 3. The Home Alone films were a significant part of my childhood. I watched them many times around the holiday season while growing up. In fact, I enjoyed them so much as a young one, I parroted certain lines from the films many times throughout the year, even after the Christmas buzz had ended. Namely,
"Keep the change, you filthy animal."
As much as I hate to admit this, I watched Home Alone 3 many times as a young child. Thankfully, I didn't like it as much as the original two films, even back then, so therefore didn't watch it as much as I watched those. The reason for this is that we had one of those multi-pack DVDs that had the first 4 Home Alone films on it. Thankfully, I never braved the 5th one. I only watched the 4th one once as a child, and hated it so much that I never even looked at the DVD again. As previously stated, I cannot say the same for Home Alone 3, although I haven't watched it in years. Is it as meh as I remember? Is it as crap as people say? Let's find out. The film opens with a terrorist organization receiving a microchip that has the ability to cloak missiles. The group of criminals that will be relevant to the story, Peter, Alice, Burton, and Earl, hide the chip in a remote-controlled car toy in an airport, but due to some trouble with the luggage, the toy gets sent to Chicago with a woman named Mrs. Hess. The criminals realize this and decide to chase after the chip. They harass some civilians for a bit to extract information from them, but this is just basic late 90s, early 2000s low-budget spy mumbo-jumbo essentially. In Chicago, an 8-year-old boy, our protagonist, Alex, who just so happens to be a kid genius, is given the toy car as a Christmas present from Mrs. Hess in return for shoveling the snow off of her driveway. Alex accepts the gift, although she scolds at him grumpily as old people apparently tend to do.
And have your mother teach you that it is rude to scratch yourself in the presence of a lady.
Upon returning home, Alex discovers that he was actually scratching himself because he has chicken pox, and is told that he must stay home for the next few days. Holy shit, is that Scarlett Johansson? Mad. Alex also has a noisy teenage brother with a noisy pet parrot. I guess this is the film's buzz. Sigh, why must cheap imitations be so predictable? Alex's parents both have to go to work while he is sick, so while messing around and being absent from school, and of course getting up to 90s WizKid mischief, Alex discovers that the criminals from earlier are spying on his neighbours. He calls the police, but they find nothing and his parents assume he is lying. Being the nosy little shit he is, Alex feels that he must investigate and put a stop to these burglars himself. He attaches a camera to his remote control car and uses it to spy on the criminals. They are able to spot the car and, of course, chase after it to no avail. Damn, how did these losers manage to become members of a terrorist organization? They suck. Again, with this film being a cheap imitation, Alex uses a television as a distraction, but the filmmakers decide to spice it up a little by adding a little distraction using the parrot. This entire sequence is really long-winded and could have been 5 minutes long, but gotta pad out that runtime, I guess. The criminals are clumsy and useless as shit, so the car returns successfully to Alex, and wanting to know why the group want the car so badly, he takes a look inside and discovers the much coveted microchip. He notifies the Air Force as that's what's on the chip, but the bad guys realize that Alex is the one who knows about them, and decide to go full wet/sticky bandits on him.
They don't believe the kid. He takes matters into his own hands. It can't be anything else.
If that's the case, I say take no chances. Tomorrow, whack every kid in the neighborhood. Burn them all.
Bit extreme. Who is this, King Herod? There's a lot of other crap between this part about Alex's family and whatever, but I really don't care about that. Not to mention, it's far less touching than the stuff from the other films, so let's just get to the part we're all interested in. The criminals getting cartoonishly injured to the point that if this was real, they'd all have died gruesome deaths. Mrs. Hess is also held hostage when she goes in to check on Alex, but Alex frees her when the criminals are done getting destroyed. The authorities Alex helped get notified arrive, and Alex's family finally believe him. It's all well that ends well, and the bad guys go to prison. I honestly don't know why I put up with this movie and yet discarded the fourth one. Sure, it's not completely bottom of the barrel like its sequel, but this really is garbage that's trying to ride the coattails of a beloved franchise.
Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
They even try to rip off the electric shock kill from the second film, but make it way less funny. Even the soundtrack is 90s cringe, and not even in a funny way. I think the parts with the rat were very cute if not a little cliche, and the effects weren't awful, but that's all I can praise this film for. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave any thoughts you had in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.
I'm the selection box god. All these other boys fraud. They just eat the one bar, but I eat them all. I'm the selection box god. All these other boys fraud. They just eat the one bar, but I eat them all. I'm the selection box god. All these other boys fraud.